When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Well, hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, as always, Colleen Biggs, and we're starting to roast now. I'm just going to say, I thought it was the weather's so beautiful, and, April showers brings May flowers. Then it was like, holy crap, it's like 98 degrees. I live in Arizona. Now I'm approaching, triple digits. By the end of May, June, we will definitely be in triple digits. And I was just saying to someone the other day, maybe I am getting old, because I don't think I'm old. 52 is not old. Come on. I'm in the best shape of my life. And I'm maybe I am getting old because I'm starting to not like the heat. I want to stay indoors and I want to be in the air conditioning. And I'm starting to really like the winters. And then I think, maybe I'm a snowbird. No, I don't want to be a snowbird, because you're old when you're a snowbird and you start traveling back and forth between areas of climate. And I don't want to be that way. But for those that do that, I say, hats off to you. I have some friends in my neighborhood that do that. And I'm like, it's so smart because they just chase the cooler weather. But Arizona is such a beautiful place to live. The blooms are gorgeous right now, I'm sure, in all places around the world. And so welcome back to Take the Leap, where every week we have a new guest on, and this guest is going to share their expertise, their wisdom, and their journey in building their businesses. And they're going to be giving you some nuggets and dropping them along the way of how you can take what they share and apply it to your own business. So week after week, you're going to learn something new, because remember, it's about designing your life the way that you want your life to be. It is not about allowing life to just happen. That is not how we live our lives ever. So building a business one conversation at a time is a true belief of mine. And then I meet Deb and she's like, yes, that's how I do it. And I'm like, I cannot wait to hear what Deb has to say today. So Deb Fetter is with us, and she's the CEO of Fetter Development. But first, before we get to Deb, I do want to thank our sponsor of today's show, Phoenix Drone Pros. And at Phoenix Drone Pros, we love what we do and are passionate about each and every drone photography and video shoot. We've been in business since 2016. Our talent and skills shows in the video production we deliver. We offer fast service for commercial real estate, construction companies, movies, and even events and site monitoring. We also provide drone virtual tours that are all the rage right now. These virtual tours are great for team building and entertainment. Contact us today at phoenixdronepros.com to schedule your shoot or to get more information. We're now franchising, so reach out for information on how you can purchase your own drone company and kiss corporate goodbye. That's what I like to say. Kiss corporate goodbye and be done with that. All right, let's get back to our guest of today's show, Deb Fetter. She is a business development coach, a strategist, and the CEO of Fetter Development LLC, a consulting firm focused on helping lawyers and professionals bring in consistent clients through curious, confident conversations and changing the way we view productivity for professionals. For the last decade, she's committed herself to changing the way we think about work-life balance and how we tackle high-stakes work, allowing for big careers while enjoying our free time. So prior to founding, I guess she probably did both. She funded and found Fetter Development. Deb practiced corporate law for 15 years. Deb, welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Colleen. I'm so excited about this conversation.
It's going to be great. And I'm really excited. I really am excited about it. So you come from a background of corporate law, like we just said, for 15 years. What would you say was the one thing you learned through those 15 years of corporate law that you really felt like, obviously there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of education that you got through that. But what is the one thing that you really felt like you brought out of that you wanted to make sure was a big piece of what you used in Fetter Development moving forward?
Oh, I don't know if I can do one thing, but I'll try. So
Okay, two
I think really at its crux, and I talk about this in After Hello, but really it's that showing up and being part of client relationships and conversations, right? So when somebody offers you to be in the conversation, saying yes in that moment, you don't necessarily know what's going to happen, right? And I think I probably started off my career just from a place of like total, like, I don't know what I'm doing. So you say, come to this, and I say yes, and navigated from there. But really, that foundation of being willing to be a part of things and wanting to get curious and learn more. I learned it through the practice of law, but also really through the client relationships I've had over the years, and recognizing that if we change how we engage in conversations and the questions we ask, really the work part becomes a lot easier, right? And we can get to those mutual wins a lot faster just by stepping into those conversations.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because you talk about the word curious. So being curious looks like what to you?
So I think that when you are curious, you want to learn about somebody else and you're willing to pause and allow them to shine, letting their expertise and experience have a moment in the conversation, right? We've gotten really bad about allowing empty space in conversations. So often you'll hear somebody ask a question and start to answer it at the same time. But really, having a question that allows somebody else to have the moment and you to learn is genuine curiosity.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be really interesting if we asked our listeners, take a second and think, are you a space filler? Do you get nervous when there's open space in a conversation where someone might be formulating what they want to say back and they need a second to think about it?
So I often say, how often is somebody start talking and you start formulating your response about 4 or 5 words in, right? And the problem is they keep talking, but you've stopped listening. You have no idea what they've actually, said at that point. So my tip is, and this is actually the name of my book that's coming out in the fall, is called Tell Me More. And really what I say is if you notice you've done that, pause, take 2 deep breaths, and ask them to tell you more, right? Which allows them to continue talking and kind of turns your brain back into the conversation, right? Where you can be like, oh, that's what you were actually asking. And I can allow you to have the full space. And now we can navigate the conversation in a way that doesn't feel weird because you had stopped listening.
I think a really fun exercise you can do with a spouse or a kid or anyone in your household is say, I'm going to do an exercise with you and I want you to talk to me and tell me about your day or whatever it is. And then I'm going to say back to you what you said to me. So that person has to intently listen and say, what I heard you said, what I heard you say was, and then say that back. When you're a podcast host, like I am, when I interview women over and over again on Take the Leap or for my spotlights that I do for my members of the Leap community, I have to listen intently to what you're saying so that I know what my next question is because I don't have a script. Some hosts have a script and they only ask questions. You're going to respond to them and then they're not going to dig any deeper or say, wait a minute, let's go back to what you just said and anchor that in because I might have heard it in 2 sentences in and was like, oh, that's a good thing I want to talk about next. Or it might have been something you said at the end of your sentence. So I have to listen very intently throughout that entire process. So I don't think it's natural maybe for us to always be these great, effective listeners and communicators, but we can work on it. It's a habit that we can create.
1,000%. And that's a really great exercise to do with family, with friends, with colleagues when you're practicing conversations, right? I think that we practice so many things, but when was the last time, one thing I do, often is ask, let's practice our next question, right? Not your intro, not the hello, but let's actually think about and practice that because to do that, you have to listen first. Right. And if it's like coming out of the blue, you're like, well, that was a big, no pun intended, but that was a big leap.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
You start with a company and they're hiring you. Why? What is their major pain point?
Major pain point is one of three things, right? That there's so many things to be done that helping their teams really understand how to manage their days, get through all of the communication and the conversations and all the options out there. How do we help make that easier? Right. So that's one thing, like actually getting the things done that are filling up our plate so that we can have time for the bigger, more important conversations or bigger goals. The second is bringing in business. And how do we go out there and build relationships and really change the way that we look at client relationships? And then also for how do we navigate really important conversations and challenging ones, right? And they all three work together. And there's different layers, right? Like there's working on LinkedIn and there's other things that all play into it. But really at its crux, I help people navigate the everyday interactions and choices to be able to bring in business, build great client relationships, get out of work in time to go enjoy your life.
Yeah.
All the things.
So building those great client relationships, what process do you really take them through? You wrote a book. So I'm assuming, you wrote that book for a reason, After Hello. Tell us about your book.
So I wrote After Hello. I actually just looked at it. I started writing it 2 years ago, like right now. And really it came through doing this work for over a decade and recognizing that it's not just, hello, can I work with you? There's so much in between.
Why do people do that? I don't get that. They're like, well, I don't understand why you just wouldn't work with me right now. It's like, hey, wait, hold on. I don't know you. I don't trust you. There's a lot of pieces we missed here in a conversation. It's crazy to me that people think that.
But they do because we don't talk about the middle, right? But most of the work happens in the middle, right? You're creating these incredible client relationships. You're building trust. Yeah. You're stepping out and getting a little courageous about what you want the work to do. Because also if you say, I'll work with anybody doing anything, that's very, as you know, very hard to attract work. But also you're then going to get anything. Right. And so we don't want that either. So really, it was a way to navigate all the things that happened in between and starting to put some practices in place to try out. Because you know what works for you and what works for me. Like I'm going to guess that if we took our emails, like a touch base email with a potential client, your email and my email might look a little bit different. There's probably some similarities, but they're going to probably look a little different because you need to sound like you and I need to sound like me. So that's really where the book started and is what it's used for. Like understanding what you bring to the table and then using that to navigate those really great conversations.
And it's called After Hello, How to Build a Book of Business, One Conversation at a Time.
Correct.
Yeah, I love that. I was on a one-on-one yesterday. I'm on one-on-ones, all week long. Many of us should be. And if you're not, that's probably one of the biggest problems. You're not doing one-on-ones with people. And I noticed in the background, he had Thor's, what is that? What is it? A hammer.
Okay.
Hammer.
Yeah.
And then Iron Man. And I was like, are you a big Marvel fan? I'm looking behind you and I'm just curious about, again, I guess I use the word curious about what's on your wall. And he was like, no, I'm not actually a really big fan of that. I'm like, he has kids, but they're not. He said it was like an alter ego thing and started telling me a little bit more about that. And so then we started getting into more of a personal conversation that actually lasted a little longer on the call. And so, Deb, I got to know him better after he stopped talking about the business. I got to know him better in the last 10 minutes than I did in the first 25 minutes of the conversation that we had, just because I think what you said, I got curious, not even really knowing I just was like, hey, what's in the background? Because I am a big Marvel fan. And so I was like, I'm just, but tell me about that. Tell me about you. we just started getting to know each other. And then that changed the whole conversation. It felt like some walls started dropping.
You know what? Small talk is so underrated, right? I think there's multiple camps in small talk, right? I love it. I hate it. I don't want to have to pivot towards business, but yet I don't really know what to talk about in small talk. Depending on the person. But if you just take out the idea that there's an actual topic that has to be covered in small talk, because the point of it is that there's not, but you just start engaging with each other as humans, you learn so much.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, you're building trust. You can actually circle back on things that you learned. Like if you know they're all about vacations, right? I recently met somebody, all they do are go on these magical vacations and they plan them and they're really intentional about it. And it's the core of their family. I've got 1,000 questions, right? I only got to ask about 5 during our dinner. I've got another 1,000 waiting on how do you pick? What's the most important feature? Like all the things that regardless of whether or not we work together, I want to know more because it's interesting.
Yeah. I think that's the key. What you just said right now, whether we work together or not, I'm interested. That is, I feel like a huge piece. When you show interest in someone, like you're really interested in them and you want to get to know them, and you want to know more about what they do or a subject. It could be, I have a really great friend who has become a bodybuilder. And so I'm always asking her questions about that. She loves to talk about that. So the more that I engage with her, the more that she's knowing me, liking me, trusting me, and I'm building that, what we talked about, a business, one conversation at a time, because that person might not work with me, but they're going to remember and they might really like me. And then when they're ready or to a point where they need something specific in their season of their business, right, Deb, and they're getting ready to hire you, they're like, well, I want to talk to Deb, because her and I have got a really good relationship now.
Or I need to talk to Deb because I don't need Deb, but I wonder if Deb knows somebody who does what I need, right?
That happens a lot.
I will get people who referred to me all the time that I don't know the person referring them, right? But what it is that, or I don't know them as well, right? We've met, we've talked maybe once or twice, but they remembered me and shared my information. And I love to do that for others. But back to like what we talked about before, if you meet me and say, hi, because I've had this happen too. Okay, what I really need you to do is spread the word about me to your community. I just said hello to you. I don't even know what to tell them about what you do. I don't even know what to tell them about you as a person. I got nothing here.
Oh, don't we all have those conversations? It's so great. Okay. So after the hello,
yes,
you say hello to someone. What do you recommend as, kind of some keys to the conversation and then the follow-up for someone?
I think you start with every conversation starts with some form of hello. Like, and it doesn't not even formal hellos, but like you enter a conversation, right? There's a beginning. And then usually it's that at that point, there is some small talk. There's something where we're building a little bit of rapport. We're getting in the rhythm of the conversation. And this could be one-on-one. It could be at a big group. It could be at a networking event. It doesn't matter. And then you have to make the decision whether or not you're going to pivot this conversation into something more substantive. Now, sometimes that's all in one conversation. Sometimes these are all individual conversations, right? But wanting to learn more, and that's where I suggest getting curious. Having 1, 2, 3 tops, right? Strategic questions that you remember that you want to ask. Now, my key for here is if you've got really one good question and you're at a networking event, if you ask the same question to lots of people, you actually now walk out with data. You get to have multiple perspectives. You're like, you know what? It's not all what I thought, right? So it's a little bit of market research. It gives you a job. It takes the nerves off of walking in the room. And you can just casually ask, you know what? Even on a call, you can say, you know what, while I've got you, I'm curious what you're thinking about this right now. And it takes it from like the everyday business to, hey, I'd be curious like what you're doing, and how you're seeing this. And now you've opened up the dialogue in a whole new way. Now, if you end up having this conversation and you say, oh my gosh, I just read an article, I saw this article, or I saw this movie, you've got to see it. If you don't follow up, it's like all the way back to that beginning small talk. You're kind of hurting the trust component.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And if you say you're going to follow up. I
just do
am
it.
shocked I follow up with every single person I have a one-on-one with, or that I meet. If I take their business card, I'm like, I'll follow up with you. Trust me, if I've got your card, I'm going to follow up with you because I want to follow up. And then it's like, hey, did you still want to get together for that coffee? Did you want to talk more? Oh, I remember you wanted me to send you and connect you with this person. Here, I'm going to send you a separate email introducing you to them. I always know what I'm following up with people, but I will tell you, Deb, it is shocking to me how many people I meet, and I am the only one that ever follows up, ever.
So there's some good news in that, right?
Crazy.
Because it's easy, like you do it and it shines, right? Yeah. So those who do it, it shines through, right? But I tell everybody, even if you forgot, right? You forgot, it's been too long. You are like, how do I restart? Okay, yeah, you do need to restart, but we can restart. And you simply say, my apologies, this got stuck. And I wanted to circle back to our conversation. I would love to revisit, X if you're interested. And again, caring about the relationship enough to reach out rather than sitting at your desk being like, well, it's been like 6 months. I don't know if they'll remember me. Or worse yet, I see them annually and I'll just say hello right before the next annual conference. Like reach out somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I love it when I reach out to someone because, I'm kind of doing like maybe a 6-month follow-up or whatever, know, and I just love to nurture people. I think it's just I just love people. So it's in my DNA, and it might be a reach out to someone to be like, hey, beautiful, what's going on? What do you have, scheduled for the weekend? I know it's Friday. I was thinking about you and just wanted to drop an email, right? There wasn't anything specific in there. And then I love the emails back. I was just thinking about you. Someone just mentioned your name to me. I was just looking at something or saw something of yours and wanted to reach out. And it's like, I love that. I love that. So Deb, tell me, first of all, where can they find your book, After Hello, How to Build a Book of Business One Conversation at a Time? And then tell me a little bit about where's the best place for someone to message you, have a direct conversation with you, connect with you, because you work with, like you said, businesses that aren't just lawyers, but you're working with businesses that you said that are also high service, direct companies.
Yeah, I work with law firms, consultants, accountants, anybody who is working with in high level client relationships, right? Yeah. Where it's usually based on giving advice and based on your expertise, your knowledge, and those industries. So you can find After Hello on Amazon. Tell Me More will be out the beginning of September. And that is really all about building trusted client relationships through your everyday interactions. And then the best way to reach me is 2 ways. LinkedIn, I'm there pretty consistently, and just find me on LinkedIn. And also at just my website is debfetter.com. There's a place there to reach out to me, jump on my newsletter, or just send me an email.
Yeah. I love that. And you can reach her at debfetter.com.
Yeah.
And it's BizDeb at LinkedIn. I love that. BizDeb at LinkedIn. And getting curious, right? We want people to get curious. We want them to have more conversations. I really feel like you can build a business because it's what I've done. It's what my husband and I have done, one conversation at a time. And I think so many people are looking for that quick, how do I get so many people? And they want to spread their net wide and they're trying to get all of these clients. It's like, you've got so many of them around you that you're not even nurturing now. What if you nurtured those clients? And the loyalty's crazy when you do that.
Starting with a really good, consistent, like nurture campaign, right, is a great place to start. And it doesn't need to be everybody, right? You're not trying to build a humongous network. You want a strong one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. Great advice from you today, Deb. It was such a pleasure having you on our show. And I just want to remind all of our listeners, you're the only you that's ever been, you're the only you that's ever going to be. So if you want to know what's going wrong in your business, I just suggest walking into the bathroom and looking in the mirror and staring at yourself and asking yourself the question, am I doing the things right in my business that I need to be doing? Am I building a great business one conversation at a time? Would I want to stay as a loyal customer in my business? Would I? Do I treat my customers right? Do they feel like they're taken care of? And I think that's very important. And I'm really excited about your book, and I am going to go buy it. So I will make sure everyone has the link at their fingertips, just like they have the link for your website after hello, how to build a book of business one conversation at a time. And I'm excited that you're kind of doing a volume 2, right? Which will be a second volume to this book. But anyone out there that owns a business needs to read this book for that reason. If you're feeling like you're just spinning your wheels and doing all of this and you're not getting the right clients, I just feel so calm in my business because I just have conversations, and I love to have conversations with people and get to know people. And I think when it's that approach, like you're at a dinner party and everyone's relaxed and that's your approach to networking, it will work every single time. So thank you, Deb, for being on today's show. It was
Thank you,
wonderful
Colleen.
having you. It was great. All right, everyone, until next time, don't forget, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.